Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Ari Sowers. I am on the customer success and training team here at Respondus. You have joined our sessions on innovations in online proctoring, and we're going to talk about some new features in Respondus Monitor. We know that with the advent of artificial intelligence tools, academic integrity, and exam security is a big concern for higher education institutions. You wouldn't be in this session if it wasn't. And we've been a long-time trusted leader in the online assessment space. As you've seen today, Respondus provides solutions for preventing cheating during online exams. We continue to innovate and will help institutions and instructors like you all create a level playing field for students during those online tests. I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping just before we jump in. It won't take long. We're using GoToWebinar as our webinar platform today. However you joined, you'll see a presentation window. That should be the biggest thing on your screen. You'll also have the ability to submit questions. See where that orange arrow is pointing to a little icon with a question mark in it. Depending on your device or how you joined, that might look a little different, but the basic idea is the same. Please submit your questions to us whenever you think of them. Don't wait till the end. This is a fairly short session. It's only about maybe 30 minutes or so. So we want to make sure that we can provide you some answers and resources. We're going to read questions aloud at the end, but we also might be able to provide some questions in writing because there are other trainers on the team with us. So check back in that questions pane later on. Again, we'll be here for about 30 minutes, and our agenda today includes an overview of the Respondus Exam Integrity Solution. Lockdown Browser and Respondus Monitor make that up. We're also going to highlight some recently added features and enhancements. We'll share some ways that our solutions are being used to provide the flexibility to protect exam integrity across many different settings. And these are real stories from institutions that we work with. And then we'll leave time for questions. Like I said, we are recording today's session. Everyone who registers will get that recording automatically. So let's jump in. Our solution, as I mentioned before, is made up of Lockdown Browser and Respondus Monitor. Both applications integrate seamlessly with the leading learning management systems in higher education. That includes Blackboard. If you're using it, you'll know what I mean when I say we support both original and ultra courses. Brightspace, Canvas, that means both new and classic quizzes, Moodle, Schoology. And then we also support many different publisher platforms like Pearson's MyLab and Mastering courses, WebAssign by Cengage, Hawkes Learning, McGraw-Hill ALEX, and that's both the higher education courses and the PPL placement tests. What all this means is that instructors and students will use a familiar environment to set up and take exams. And if your institution has an unlimited license for Lockdown Browser and Respondus Monitor, that means you do not have to worry about adding costs for using all these other platforms. Now, exam security starts with Lockdown Browser. If in case any of you are not familiar with it, Lockdown Browser is a custom browser that locks down the test environment within those online courses I just listed. It's the standard for locking down a device during an online exam. When using Lockdown Browsers, students cannot print, copy test content, access other applications, open tabs or windows, search the internet. I could go on and on. We'd be here all day if I listed all of the potential exploits that Lockdown Browser blocks. And it's kind of important to know that Lockdown Browser isn't just a browser extension that you put in Chrome. It's its own application. Browser extensions can be easily circumvented by students. Lockdown Browser is a native application used on the student's device to prevent lots of ways that students could potentially cheat during exams. And it's used by thousands of colleges, universities, and K-12 schools to secure hundreds of millions of exams every year. Now, the integration with the learning system, we talked about what those are before, creates a Lockdown Browser dashboard right in the course that instructors have access to, and they have everything they need to get started here: guides, tutorials, templates, and more. The dashboard is where instructors would apply settings for the test to require Lockdown Browser and then Respondus Monitor. And each test can use different options, as you're kind of seeing here, depending on the instructor's needs for that assessment. Now, Lockdown Browser offers a feature-rich experience for Windows, Mac, Chromebook, and iPad users. Again, because it's a native application, it can stop many kinds of exploits that browser extensions cannot, even sneaky things like remote desktops, screen sharing, hardened virtual machines, and test taker impersonation tools. Now, Lockdown Browser can be used as a standalone application for in-person proctored exams, and a lot of institutions do that. We're going to talk more about that a little bit later. But how it works is students simply navigate to the exam in the course using whatever browser they usually use. When the exam requires Lockdown Browser, it will launch automatically, providing the student with a very seamless experience. And then the quiz begins, keeping the student in the locked browser environment and preventing access to other resources on their device. Now, Respondus Monitor is built on Lockdown Browser, and it provides a fully automated proctoring solution that allows students to take online assessments while ensuring the integrity of the entire exam process, creating a fair and consistent method of monitoring both the test taker and preventing methods of cheating. Respondus Monitor is used at more than 1,500 colleges and universities by more than 75,000 instructors and with tens of millions of exams each year. With Respondus Monitor, students use a webcam to record themselves during the online exam that also requires Lockdown Browser, and that video and other information is analyzed by the Respondus Monitor system. So proctoring results like flagged events and milestones are available to the instructor after the exam. Usually a quick review is all that's needed, but more detail is a click away if a closer look is necessary. So let's take a quick look at that. The Respondus Monitor settings are available in the same dashboard where the Lockdown Browser settings were selected. Proctoring results can also be reviewed in the dashboard, usually within about 5 to 10 minutes after the exam is submitted. It's really fast. And instructors can sort the class roster by different data points, like a review priority ranking level, grade, other data, and they can also expand the student's record and review the actual video, audio, a timeline, milestones, and more. And instructors can even scan thumbnails from the entire exam session for a really quick review. The entire video is available, but instructors can examine short segments first as a more efficient way of detecting any exam violations. Now, it's worth pausing here and explain a bit about how Respondus Monitor doesn't just provide instructors with a lot of data to wade through when it processes students' videos. It's designed to collect both useful information during the exam session, which reduces the risk to students that they are flagged if they are not cheating, as well as provide instructors with meaningful data after the exam, saving you all time, energy, and effort. In fact, much of the ongoing work we do at Respondus is to continually improve how that underlying technology works. We call it Respondus Vision. It's the heart and soul of Respondus Monitor. We don't use out-of-the-box computer vision models that are developed for other industries. We built it ourselves. Now, this flagging system uses machine learning models to improve the quality of flagged events, and it works better in situations like low lighting, when the webcam isn't directly in front of the student, or when the student's hands are covering their face. And our machine learning models are trained for proctoring environments with a laser-like focus on reducing false positive flags that clutter instructors would have to wade through. Our false positive rate for flags was already the lowest in the industry, but updates to this system have continued to reduce that rate by another 80 percentage points. All this means is that instructors have meaningful results, more meaningful results from exams, reducing the risk of cheating, promoting honest achievement, and reinforcing equal expectations for all learners. We also implemented a system that tests for fairness whenever new code is submitted. This is ongoing work. It's not one and done. We keep working on making sure that any variances in skin tone, gender, age, hairstyle could favor or disfavor someone from a flagging standpoint. Respondus is committed to the responsible use of computer vision technology. We have a section of our website. You can see that below at respondus.com/algorithm-fairness that's dedicated to this topic, and a recently updated research paper that describes our process for evaluating those algorithms for fairness. Okay, that's the overview. Let's jump into a few of the more recent features we've been working on as they relate to what instructors will see in the results and what you can evaluate. Some of the enhancements are going to reduce how many flags appear in the video. Remember, we want to drop down that false positive rate, but they happen on the student side. preventing the flag from happening in the first place. So when a student is recorded, it's always possible they have inadvertently moved so that their face isn't clearly visible in the video, like this one, like if they're tilted their camera or they're slouching. And rather than to create a flag that an instructor would have to review, Respondus Monitor will alert the student to provide warnings both before and during the exam to avoid being flagged when it was not intentional. They can then adjust their camera or position so they're seen clearly. Now, another similar alert will warn students when they are not in good lighting. It can be too dark or even glaringly bright. This reduces, again, the number of false positive flags for instructors and provides better videos for evaluating students. Now, instructors can also record the student's screen, so not just their webcam video, but the screen that they're working on during the online exam. And the webcam video and the screen recording will sync up. This is really important. There are times when seeing what is happening on the student's screen is helpful to resolve issues, like an image not loading in a specific question. You can go right to that question and see exactly what's happening both on the student's view and the screen view. It can also be useful when instructors want students to explain their work or their thought process. In the proctoring results, the screen recording would appear with the video player, and it's easy to toggle between the student's webcam and the screen recording view. Now notice that, again, one of the big enhancements here is that the screen recording will synchronize with the webcam of the video, and that includes all of the milestones, flags, thumbnails, and everything here. So you can look at 3 minutes and 15 seconds and see everything else that's going on at that point in time. Another recent addition is the ability for instructors to choose a sensitivity level for the flagging system. Now, this happens on the results page. It doesn't have to be determined before the exam begins, and it will recalculate the review priority score and the ranking. The default setting is standard. This, if the instructor makes no changes, the flagging will work as you've been accustomed to. It's kind of what most people use. The strict sensitivity setting can detect when portions of the student's face have moved outside of the video frame or both eyes of the student aren't visible, like in this example here. Now, strict sensitivity might be appropriate for tests where students are not using outside resources like books, calculators, or scrap paper. And the relaxed setting will reduce the sensitivity of missing flags. So it might be preferred with an open book exam where the student can look away from the camera often to look at their notes or books, or if they're using something like scrap paper or a calculator. Speaking of calculators, there's another setting that can alert instructors to the presence of a handheld device in the student's video. So in situations where an instructor wants to exclude this flag from proctoring results, like a math exam where you're allowed to have a calculator, it's easily adjusted after the assessment, but it's on by default. Other recent enhancements will help instructors with more options for exams and assessing students' work. This feature, called Show Your Work, allows instructors to require a step that will prompt the student to take pictures of written work at the end of the assessment, maybe calculations or diagrams they were asked to make during the test. After the exam, the images will appear with the proctoring results, so instructors can view and evaluate the written work. Now, to tie it all together, the student's experience using Respondus Monitor is as seamless as using Lockdown Browser alone. It's almost the same process. It only additionally uses the student's webcam. So when they log into their course, Lockdown Browser will automatically launch. And before the student sees any test questions, they'll go through those pre-exam steps to make sure that everything is set up correctly and collect some information based on what the instructor wants the student to show. This webcam check will ensure everything works properly before the test begins. It even includes built-in troubleshooting and 24/7 live chat support so that students have access to technical support right when they need it. Some steps, like this one, are determined by the instructor. So you might have students capture a photo of an ID or a video of their environment. And another step, called face detection, it's important to ensure the student's webcam is positioned correctly. This is one of those places where those alerts we talked about earlier. So if the student is sitting in the dark, it will let them know and they can make that correction before they begin. Now, once the exam begins, remember, the test itself is still in Lockdown Browser, and it's still in the online course. So the content and settings of your online tests are the same. We're just keeping the student locked into the test environment and recording them during the exam session with Respondus Monitor. Now, while I'm here in the student side of things, there's one last really new feature to show off. A new instructor setting enables students to switch between an online exam and Microsoft Excel, but still not be able to access any other application. So we know your business and science faculty are going to love this. The instructor simply chooses the Excel setting after requiring Respondus Monitor with screen recording. And then during the exam, the student will see an Excel icon in the Lockdown Browser toolbar highlighted here that allows the student to open the application directly, or the instructor can put a file, an Excel file, in the exam content so the student can open that file. Either one will open the Excel application, that's the whole thing, and allow them to create or analyze data using every feature that would be available in the client version of the Microsoft Excel application. But remember, they are not going to be able to open any other application or other browsers from here. They can work in Excel. They can switch back and forth to the online test and the Excel files if they need it. They can even upload and save the file if that's needed to submit their work, and then submit the exam. When a quiz with Lockdown Browser and Respondus Monitor is submitted, the Respondus Monitor recording will stop and students can exit Lockdown Browser. Now, that was a very quick, maybe not so quick overview of how the applications work. I want to talk about how they're used, because most people think of Respondus Monitor being used in remote settings, which it certainly is. But the Respondus solution is so much more than just a remote proctoring tool. As you'll see in the stories I'm about to tell, Respondus Monitor is being used in a lot of different ways. And it's fully automated, which means online tests can be taken at any time or any place the instructor allows. There's no need to schedule in advance, and no registration is required for instructors or students. So here's where we want to share some examples of how these applications are all being used from what we've learned from working with more than 1,500 colleges and universities like you all that use Respondus Monitor. So let's break it down. In classroom settings, face-to-face environments, Lockdown Browser is often used just by itself. Many instructors give in-class tests or quizzes where Lockdown Browser eliminates the need for instructors to have to look at every student's device to make sure they're not opening other applications or files they shouldn't have. We also hear a lot from instructors who are using Lockdown Browser now for in-class writing assignments using the quiz tool in their learning system, and this prevents the use of generative AI tools like ChatGPT. There's even a great example that was covered in a recent Inside Higher Ed article of an instructor who sets up a multi-day in-class writing assignment complete with embedded reference materials in Lockdown Browser. This allows students to continue reflecting on the topic and revising their work, but they can't take it home and share it with anybody, and they can't use those AI tools to help write their work. Now, in-class assessments are also using Lockdown Browser and Respondus Monitor, where there might be a lower level of supervision by the instructor. Maybe there's only one instructor and 300 students, so you want to have that video recording as well. Now, Respondus Monitor can also be useful when instructors want to have students demonstrate skills on camera. We've seen everything from sterile techniques in health professions programs, American Sign Language demonstrations, and even using Respondus Monitor with a hands-on lab, like in a science class. This lets instructors authentically assess student learning beyond just multiple choice questions on a test. And again, those features we talked about today, like show your work, screen recording, support for Microsoft Excel, will provide instructors with even more options for students to demonstrate knowledge and for instructors to evaluate their learning. Now, in thousands of proctored testing centers all over the world, Lockdown Browser is used to keep students out of those applications and files they're not supposed to be using. This is where there might be a proctor watching the student, but they don't have to keep an eye on each student's screen. Now, this scenario often includes a password-protected exam. So maybe there is someone at the door checking students in, giving them the password after confirming their ID and having them put away a mobile device. And Lockdown Browser in these environments is incredibly scalable. We routinely hear about large-scale exams with hundreds of students or more able to test at one time. We also see, and maybe this is surprising to some, a lot of use of Respondus Monitor in these testing centers. All that's needed is a webcam-enabled device, or students can bring and plug in their own. Now, this might be especially helpful when there are fewer proctors or institutions are looking to reduce costs by having less staffing for those testing centers. Respondus Monitor will still record the student, analyze the video, and provide results to the instructors. We even know of institutions that are able to save an entire line item on their budget because they used to pay for outside testing centers. So they use Respondus Monitor on campus wherever there is an internet connection and a place that students can use or bring a device. There are also a lot of examples, as you kind of might already be thinking about, of Lockdown Browser and Respondus Monitor being used in remote test settings. This supports institutions with fully online programs, fully online courses, because exams can be delivered in a window of time. You've got 48 hours, or even synchronously, but the exams are taken by students remotely. There's also a lot of examples of instructors, even in very traditional face-to-face classrooms, giving students at-home exams between meeting times. Because what that does is it saves that class meeting time to get back time to cover content, so the instructor is not needing to proctor their own exams. And this also can give more flexibility to students. You might want that window over the weekend or to be able to take the test in the middle of the night if that meets their schedule better. And again, many of those new features we shared today add even more choices for instructors to allow students to show written work, use outside websites, work in Excel during an exam that requires Lockdown Browser and Respondus Monitor. As one example, we talked to a lot of finance professors who use Show Your Work feature on nearly every exam because students are creating graphs or calculating things. They might be inputting the answers into the test question, but the instructor wants to see the understanding of the concepts and even help them learn from mistakes. Now, there's another feature that comes with the license of Respondus Monitor called Instructor Live Proctoring. And this allows instructors to require Lockdown Browser to prevent cheating on the student's device, but also watch them in a video conferencing platform like Zoom or Teams. Now, Instructor Live Proctoring is incredibly useful in remote settings where instructors may need to watch students in real time and still use Lockdown Browser on the device. With Instructor Live Proctoring, there's no recording, there's no flagging like in Respondus Monitor, because the instructor is managing the class and observing the students taking the exam. But the exam is still locked into Lockdown Browser, so they can't access unapproved resources. Instructor Live Proctoring is also commonly used for post-exam review sessions, where students are joining a video conference and looking at the results, the incorrect answers, discussing questions with their instructor, but you can require Lockdown Browser for that post-exam review so students are not printing or copying the answers to the test questions. And some institutions use Instructor Live Proctoring for students who need makeup exams or accommodations to test in a separate, quiet location without being surrounded by a lot of other test takers and noise. Or maybe a student needs an aide who can also join via video conference to help with any issues. Now, a lot of hybrid settings use Instructor Live Proctoring too. This means that some students might be in a classroom and others remote at the same time. Instructors can simply require Lockdown Browser and use Instructor Live Proctoring, but only the students who join remotely need to be in that video conferencing session. The students in the classroom are just using Lockdown Browser, and the instructor is able to observe and manage everyone. One great example of this hybrid approach is that a few colleges we know where the on-campus computer labs just aren't big enough for synchronous exams that you might give to the entire program. Some students can request to take the test remotely and join a Zoom session with the instructor or teaching assistants or proctors who are also monitoring the in-person students. And again, this gives more options for students, more flexibility, and saves some space too. Now, Respondus Monitor can also be used in those hybrid environments. They can give students a choice of when and where to take exams. There's a webcam optional setting in Respondus Monitor. If set up by the instructor, it will allow students to choose between a proctored testing center where they're required to use Lockdown Browser or the remote environment where they use Lockdown Browser and Respondus Monitor. Now, this is helpful where there are a few students who can't come to campus and still need to take the test in the same window of time, or the other way around, where there's some students who don't want to be recorded, and you can let them come to campus and take tests in person. It also can be really helpful where students need better connectivity, a quieter location on campus, a better internet connection, and even some accommodations. We know many institutions that apply this setting to all exams, so students always have that choice. So I hope we just saw that flexibility is really at the core of Lockdown Browser and Respondus Monitor. Many different types of online testing occur at colleges and universities, both on and off campus, and both at the same time. So Lockdown Browser and Respondus Monitor can provide one solution and a lot of choices for how and where tests can be delivered, all while protecting the integrity of the exam and creating fair test environments for students. Respondus has been focused on online assessments for more than 20 years. We know tests, we know proctoring, we know education, and all this knowledge gets poured into Lockdown Browser and Respondus Monitor, which is why thousands of institutions all over the planet have selected our solution for their exam integrity. And as a founder-led company with no outside investors, invention and innovation are just in our DNA. It's what drives us to solve problems and make things better. Our product team is grounded in science and guided by customer feedback, your feedback. The result is a continuous stream of enhancements that address exam integrity in meaningful ways. And there are even more enhancements to come. So now is the time where we get to take questions from you all, and we'll stick around for another maybe 5 or 10 minutes or so to see what questions we can answer. If you would like more information about Respondus Monitor, visit respondus.com/monitor. On that page, you can find feature lists, resources, answers to FAQ, information about how to do a pilot, even pricing is on there. There's even tutorial videos and guides so you can see how it looks in your learning system. And then you can reach out to our team using that email there, hello@respondus.com, if you have questions that need following up on, and they'll direct you to the right place, whether that's an account manager to talk about a pilot, or maybe someone on the training team to answer product questions. All right, so there are some other trainers on the line with us today. If you submitted a question, you might have gotten an answer in writing. So check that questions pane again. And then who's going to ask questions today? Who can read the questions out loud, and we'll try to answer them in the next couple of minutes. Is that going to be Rebecca, I think?
It is. Thanks,
All
Sally.
right. Hi.
We've got quite a few questions, so I'm going to try to squeeze in as many as we can here. Let's start with, is there an option for hybrid classes to proctor students live?
Oh, absolutely. That is the instructor live proctoring setting. So if you want to watch your students as they're taking a test, but they might not all be in the room with you, and you also still want to use Lockdown Browser because you don't want students switching to another window, printing a copy of the test, and so on, the instructor live proctoring feature will let you set up Lockdown Browser for the test. You choose your video conferencing system of choice, maybe that's Zoom or Teams, and then you simply have the students who are remote join the Zoom session. The students in the classroom would launch Lockdown Browser. When the students are in the Zoom session, they also launch Lockdown Browser, and you can watch everybody. Hope that answers the question.
Thanks, Sari. A question about other publisher integrations. Does Respondus Monitor work with Pearson MyLab?
Yes, so we support, so there's a couple different things going on here. One is that we support Respondus Monitor for a lot of different publisher platforms, and that includes Pearson MyLab. It also includes some mastering titles by Pearson. That list includes McGraw-Hill Alex, which is a math platform for courses or placement tests. We've got WebAssign by Cengage, Hawks Learning, and we're going to have some other platforms announced in the next couple of months. So we keep adding to that list. That's for Respondus Monitor. If you're looking to use Lockdown Browser alone, there are dozens and dozens of other platforms that also provide Lockdown Browser. So I didn't list them, the one that you're looking for now, I would suggest you reach out to the publisher or the provider and ask them for Lockdown Browser.
Great, thanks, Sari. There are quite a few questions about whether these applications work with assistive technology. For example, screen readers or text-to-speech applications. Can you address that for us?
I can. And you know what's funny is I had a little slide at the end in case this question came up. I was prepared. So yes, we do a couple things here. One is that we want to make sure that our applications are available to all learners. But as you were watching me talk about how especially the lockdown browser part of our solution works, it's kind of counterintuitive to allow a student to use an application with a locked browser that doesn't allow students to use applications. So sometimes we have to do a little bit of extra work to make sure that those tools work with Lockdown Browser, and we do. We partner with assistive technology providers. There's a couple examples right on the screen. We have really extensive documentation on our website. If you go to respondus.com/accessibility, you will find things like our VPAT, WCAG conformance. And there's a great article linked from there with all different kinds of assistive technologies and how they work with Lockdown Browser. And that includes screen readers, speech to text, text to speech, Zoom features, diction tools, and I could go on. So yes, please visit our website for a lot of more information about accessibility.
Great, thank you, Ari. Here's a question about piloting. Our institution has Lockdown Browser, but we don't currently use Respondus Monitor. How can we turn on the webcam feature?
Great question. So if you are at a higher education institution and you have licensed Lockdown Browser by itself, which many, many schools do, we provide higher education institutions with a way to test out Respondus Monitor with no additional fees, and you don't even have to ask us. It is just part of your license. You get something called 200 seats. That's one student per course. You can use those seats all year. You don't have to turn them, it's not like a little tiny window. It's the whole licensing year. All you have to do is have your Respondus license administrator, so the people who manage the Lockdown Browser license, enable Respondus Monitor in your learning system. If they're not sure how to do that, or you don't know who your license contacts are, drop us an email. We'll put you in touch and we can talk them through the steps to do that. It's really pretty easy. It's like toggling it on or off. And if the 200 seats is not enough, let's say you want to try it with the entire nursing program, and that's like 300 or 400 students with a couple of courses, we can also talk with you about a pilot. We offer a free 2-month pilot. This is every feature I talked about today is included in the pilot. We never throttle features, just because you're getting it for free, but you can use it unlimited for 2 months, and we will design a pilot plan with you to make sure you get some testers actually trying it out. It's especially important to get feedback from students. We'll provide training for your pilot testers, your instructors, your support staff, and you'll have a dedicated account manager checking in with you throughout the entire period. And you can get those things if you're just using the 200 free seats too. Didn't mean to make it sound like you have to do a pilot. You don't. Does that help?
Great, thanks, Ari.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and there's several questions specifically about, does this